Okay, guys.
In front of you, so keep talking.
Hi, honey. Thank you. Hi.
Right on time.
Yeah, I was late. I'm sorry.
It's 100.
Oh, was it? Well, I'm still wasting time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Washoe County District Board of Health meeting. Today is Thursday, June 22nd. And Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Chair Jen,
Present.
Dr. Novak,
Present.
Oscar Delgado, absent, Dr. George Hess,
Here.
Christopher Dare,
Here.
Michael Brown,
Here.
and Tom Young.
Here.
Thank you. We have
Yes.
a quorum.
Thank you very much, and I want to welcome Mr. Young, who is our newest board member. He is the CEO and executive of Great Basin Brewery, and a great neighbor for our downtown core of Sparks, and a replacement for Mr. Silverman, another restaurateur. So thank you, Mr. Young.
Well, thank you.
At this point, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Young, you are my victim. Would you please lead it?
You'll all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our great flag here. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
We have none at this time.
Okay, does anybody here in the public wish to speak who did not know that they should fill out the card? All right. Seeing no movement, we will go to item number 4, approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Novak, a second by Brown. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Health District Officer, take it away.
Well, first we had the introduction of Mr. Young, so welcome. And I'd just like to add, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Young for a couple of hours yesterday for an initial orientation to the Health District, and really enjoyed the meeting and looking forward to working with him. So welcome aboard.
Great, great. Yes, I echo that as well. Item 5B.
We have some one transfer that I wanted to note. Gracie Flores, who has been with the CCHS for 15 years as an office assistant 2, has been promoted to an OA3 in the assessor's office. So congratulations to Ms. Flores, and I don't
She's not
think
here.
she's here.
Good,
Yes.
but good for her. She's making more money, and that's what we want to hear.
And yes, we love to see our staff advance.
We do.
And then we have some years of service recognition. We have Mike Wolf, Air Quality Supervisor, with 5 years at the Air Quality Management Division, but he's not able to be here today. We've got Maria Rodriguez, Community Health Aide with CCHS, with 10 years of service, and we're not doing very well.
They're
on
working.
attendance today.
They're working,
yes, they are
sir.
working hard.
Thank you.
And Janet, we do have Janet Piet, our community health nutritionist, with 20 years. So please stand up, Janet.
Hi, Janet.
And then, thank you for your service. Stick around. At the end of the recognitions, we'll get pictures taken, and I've got a certificate for you as well. And then Nicole Mertz, Public Health Nurse 2, 25 years of service, but I don't see Nicole here.
She's not on visit.
Okay, so our hardworking public health staff. Next, moving right along, next we've got the 2017 Extra Mile Awards, and I'd like to introduce Stephanie Chen, who is going to present the awards along with, I get to play assist on this one, so I'm going to run out front, and then I think after this, then we'll move to get the pictures taken.
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction. I'll go ahead and get started. The Health District's Chronic Disease Prevention Program would like to recognize several local businesses for providing a smoke-free environment for customers and employees. The Extra Mile Award honors businesses that have gone above and beyond the requirements of the Nevada Clean Indoor Air Act, making the conscious decision to go smoke-free when the law does not require them to. These businesses were identified by our community partners for exemplifying a growing movement to increase smoke-free venues. 85% of Washoe County residents do not smoke, and there is a growing demand for smoke-free environments. These establishments provide smoke-free environments to thousands of residents, visitors, and employees each year. Today, it is our honor to present the following businesses with the Extra Mile Award. I'll start off with Kjol Irish Pub. Kjol Irish Pub has been smoke and vape-free since they opened in April 2007 and are proud to say that they were the first non-food serving pub in Reno to go smoke-free. Accepting the award today is Ron McCarthy, owner of Kjol Irish Pub.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. I guess we're going to do one shot, and then we'll get one with a full board. On three, please. 1, 2, 3.
Mr. McCarthy, would you like to say some words?
Thank
It's
you
your
very much for the
television
award.
debut. Have to say it in the microphone.
It took me 10 years to get this award. The room's so full, nobody can hear me, I know.
I know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything you do. I'd watch out for this latest addition to your crew here.
I've been warned.
Here's a good one. No, thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you.
I really kind of thought I'd get it in the first year. It took me 10. Now I can go smoking. Just kidding. Never happened.
You're
Thank
great.
you.
Stick around. After we do all the awards, we'll do pictures.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have the Old Bridge Pub. The Old Bridge Pub has been smoke and vape-free since they opened in the spring of 2009. Their decision to be smoke-free has contributed to the idea that they want to appeal to everyone and to give their pub that old world pub feel. Accepting the award today is Ed Griggs, manager of the Old Bridge Pub.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
On three, please. 1, 2, 3.
Sir, would you like to speak as well?
I just want to say thank you. You guys all do an awesome job, and keep it up.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thanks.
Next, we have Carl's the Saloon. Carl's the Saloon recently made the decision to go smoke and vape-free after undergoing some renovations to make their bar more inviting. They have been smoke-free since April 28th of this year. Unfortunately, I think Ron is running a little bit late, but
Okay.
wanted to go ahead and recognize him, and we'll move on to the next award. I don't see him in the room, so we'll move on. Lastly, we have Wild Island Family Adventure Park. Wild Island recently prohibited smoking from Kokomo's Island Bar, located inside the water park, and the entire water park is now smoke-free. Guests will now be directed to smoke outside the park gates to a designated smoking area in their parking lot. And unfortunately, we couldn't have a representative from Wild Island as well, but we wanted to recognize them. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
And if you want to come up, we can take a,
Let's do our photos.
Yes, let's start with those.
thank you.
On three, please. 1, 2, 3. And one more. Third. 1, 2, 3.
And then, do you want to get individual ones? You're up. Yeah, to put in your block. Second round.
Okay, on three. 1, 2, 3.
Everybody needs to make a funny face for another.
Phil brought the tray.
Oscar. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it this way.
Appreciate it.
I think I have a pin.
I've got a pin for you too, but I've got to find it.
Oh, I have it. It's in a,
Okay, on three. One, two, three. And one more. This time, Jen, two, three. Okay. Congratulations. No, no, no. You need one with Mr. Young and some news about Jen. Jen.
Mr. Young.
Already. No, Jen, you can leave.
What now?
You're done.
Okay, fine.
All right. Our new representative from sports. Okay. One, two, three. And one more. One, two, three.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, guys.
Ready?
All right, we are moving on to item number 6, which is our consent items, and we can pull anything out that you have any questions on. And are there any public comment, Madam Clerk? Okay, great. Do I have a motion, or do you have questions on anything in consent?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I
Which
wanted
item?
to, on item, well, there's a few of them. I'm just very interested in hearing a little bit more regarding the consent items with the school. I think that's pretty fantastic. And I know it's in consent, so I think it's something we're excited about and moves forward, but just some information of understanding what we're doing and continuing that. I think it's a great thing, everything I've read, but in reading it, I'm trying to get my head around it and understanding it. So I don't know if we want to pull it where we can talk a little more about it.
Is it okay if we have Mr. Cutts provide just a brief overview now?
That'd be
Sure.
great.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and I think it's great to bring it to the attention of people watching.
Yeah.
My mom and dad, that's it.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Health. I'm Steve Cutts for the record. Mr. Dare, are you talking about B1? Because there are a number of agreements on here.
Just give us a consensus. I mean, I do read, and I read a lot. I read everything on here, but it's still pulling it all together to understand exactly kind of your short version of what's happening. I think it's fantastic that we're doing this, and I think it's awesome that we're walking with the school and that this is something we're doing. I think it's definitely, but just kind of giving the big, I don't know. Give
Sure,
me the
you bet.
3-minute, 4-minute version of.
I could probably do it in less than that.
Okay.
It's like, name that tune. So we have been partnering with University of Nevada, Reno for my entire time here in various manners. So the first agreement is for the Nevada State Public Health Laboratory, which they administer. So we run all of our testing through our clinical service, the majority of them, I won't say all of it, through the Nevada State Public Health Laboratory at the University of Nevada, Reno. And then next, we have the University of Nevada School of Medicine. So we host their residents here for various time frames, from as little as 2 weeks to, we just started a new program with Dr. Steve Zell, who happens to be our sexual health program medical consultant as well. And we're going to have medical residents on a more long-term, ongoing basis, and that starts this July. The next one is the Orvis School of Nursing students. We've hosted them for, I won't quite say 100 years, but I will say I was a nursing student that rotated through the district health many years ago. And so it's just a continuation. It's basically a renewal of that, and it's good for, like all of these, good for a year with auto renewal for the following 2 years. The next one is the Community Health Science Program. So that is basically UNR's version of School of Public Health. So we have community health science students that rotate through here, both undergraduate and graduate. And I think that's it regarding the UNR school agreements. We will have some more that come through in July for our family planning program, including colposcopy and vasectomy services. So we've been partnering with UNR on a number of fronts for decades now, and they're fantastic partners.
Very good. It's new to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm newer, so
get
actually,
it,
so
yeah.
thank you very
You
much.
bet.
And I think it's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
Right, and we get a lot of employees through these programs, too.
We do, and a number of graduates as well. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty great.
Thank you, Mr. Wilks.
Thanks.
Any further questions for consent? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Second?
I have a motion by Novak, a second by Dare. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item number 7 is Regional Emergency Medical Services Authority. 7A is the review and acceptance of the REMSA Ops Report for May 2017. And before we vote, let's make sure to remind me that we do have a public comment there too, but come on up. We have the Executive Director of REMSA here with us,
Madam-
Mr. Dean Dow.
Madam Chair and to the board, my name is Dean Dow. I'm President and CEO of REMSA and CareFlight. And good afternoon.
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Young, welcome. Again, I love your macaroni and cheese. I am here to answer any questions as to the operational report for May 2017 that I can. Just note that Don Varnox, who is usually here, obviously is not here today. He is on vacation. And then Kevin Romero, as listed on the agenda, is also not here today. He is actually in the field working at the rodeo, so I'm the stand-in for both of those knowledgeable gentlemen.
Does anybody have any questions on the report? All right, before we move on to 7B, which is a non-public comment item, non-action item, I do have to bring up public comment at this time, Mr. Dow, and that is Ms. Kathy Brandhorst. Item 7A is the review and acceptance of the REMSA operations report for May 2017.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. The emergency needs to report what they found on the street, on the sidewalk, if they're homeless, if they're not homeless, if they live someplace, why don't they help them get there if they are okay to be sent back home? I have had a lot of people say to me, well, this man was just found 7 times today. The same person, mutilated, shot, more bullet holes, more punches in the face. He looks older than what we found earlier. He looks like he was younger. He looked like he was about 4.5 years old. Now he's a very old man. But you had to pick him up 7 times during the day for this one person. Dead. Put him back together immediately. Who puts them back together? Is it the REMSA? Are we talking about the ambulance? Does somebody actually walk up to the emergency and say, I am going to put them back together? Who does? Because when we find out that the same person was very young, but now he looks like he's a very old man of 80 years old and maybe more, who's doing this? Who's responsible for the emergency REMSA? Ambulance. Well, I don't know where you got the skeleton bones from, but the lady said I gave him the bones because he didn't have nothing left. Oh, well, who did that? Why would you let them do that to the REMSA or to the ambulance or maybe even the fire truck? Because they're all emergencies. You don't look into this at all. No, you don't care who's found 7 times in the same day the same person. And you don't care who put them back together, just put them back on the street again. Because now he doesn't even know where he lives. He doesn't even remember who he is. He doesn't even remember where he was. You don't care about that either, but now he's
Thank you very much,
homeless.
Ms. Brandhorst. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board and would entertain a motion for 7A.
Motion to accept. Second.
Motion by Brown, second by Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item 7B, Mr. Dean Dow.
Madam Chair, just a note, if you would, on our monthly report for the EMS survey, that page, I don't know if you have that as a collective agreement from you, but it's page 7. As you're aware, we go through a month-to-month analysis by an independent third-party firm that grades our organization on different levels of performance. And I wanted to note on page 7, under the 5 lowest scores, if you look at the second, if you will, and the third line, so the first one would be professionalism of staff in our ambulance service billing office. For this measure, it rated in at 90%, although it is better than a national norm. And then the willingness of our staff and our billing office to address your needs, again, rated in at 90, which again was better than the national norm. I just wanted to highlight to this group that we as an organization do look at these measures every month. We do analyze these within a leadership group. We also report these to our direct board of directors. And in relation to those 2 items, just wanted to note that several months ago we noticed that trend line, and that's always a difficult, the business office is always a difficult part of the organization to have, if you will, high scores. Obviously because we're dealing with the billing issues, et cetera. But the leadership of our accounts receivable and billing department about 3 months ago improved the phone system within their part of the organization. So now all those phone calls are recorded. And then we also have placed them up underneath the organization's CQI process. So those phone calls are actually now randomly pulled and looked at for how they are handled, how we interacted with the customer, et cetera. So hopefully I'll be able to come back to you at some point here in the next few months and maybe highlight that those scores are in a trajectory upward. So with that, any questions?
Okay, great. Dr. Novak.
Quick question. Up on your executive summary, you're ranked 12th of comparable size companies. How many companies are you compared to that's your size?
Ooh. It fluctuates, Dr. Novak. In this, there was 140. I have seen that number go down to like 110.
Okay.
If I think back like a year ago.
Okay.
So it's a relative good number. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to see you were 12th out of 13.
No.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Dow, for being here. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Item number 8, Mr. District Health Officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 8, approve the FY18 purchase order number to be announced, issued to Valent Biosciences, bid 2955-16, in the amount of $355,000, $355,524 for mosquito abatement products on behalf of the Environmental Health Services Division of the Washoe County Health District. This item is similar to the item that we had last month. That is for the, thank you. That is for the board to approve the purchase of our larviciding product so that we can proceed with this purchase at the very beginning of the fiscal year, have the product here so that we can do our next application the week of July 10th. So this provides us with the right timing for it to be effective in our continued mosquito abatement efforts. We are working with the county and a request for contingency funds from the county contingency fund to help to cover the cost of this product is expected to be going to the Board of County Commissioners in July. So that's the background on this item. Thanks.
Any questions? Dr. Novak?
Mr. Dick, how long does this contract cover? Is this for the whole year?
This is for the Medalarv purchase that we will apply in July during that week.
This covers that, just that one application?
Yes, and I could point out that the last application that we did was Vectilex. This is Medalarv, and it's a best practice to alternate the products. Medalarv is more expensive, but it works for a longer period of time. And so the next requisition approval that I'll be bringing to you will be for 2 more Vectilex applications that'll get us through the rest of the season.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, good.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the, let's see, actually, move to approve the FY18 purchase order of the issued Valent Biosciences in the amount of $355,524,000 for mosquito abatement products on behalf of the Environmental Health Services Division of the Washoe County Health District.
I have a motion by Dare, a second by Novak. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 9, update regarding the now ended 2017 legislative session. Mr. District Health Officer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I provided that's a one-pager, actually a two-pager that's on the dais. That's my summary of the 79th session results. And so I just kind of threw this together pretty quickly as sort of my impressions of how we did with legislation during the session. I think we made a lot of progress. This does not capture all of the bills that were on our list that were enacted, but I wanted to provide some quick rundown for you. We had AB 85 that provided for the CPR and AED instruction in schools, which was passed and approved by the governor. We had workplace accommodations for nursing mothers. It was provided by AB 113. We had the AB 141, which elevated the Office of Minority Health within the structure of Health and Human Services. And so this is, I think, similar to what we're working on in regards to health disparities and health equity with the Office of District Health Officer and our Community Health Needs Assessment and Health Improvement Plan. AB 249 provides for coverage of contraception at no additional cost and dispensing of 12-month supply. So we saw several bills you'll see that were in support of women's reproductive health. We had AB 260, prostitution and human trafficking, that strengthens enforcement against Johns and provides programs for treatment for engaging in and soliciting for prostitution. And so this is something that we're already doing locally. Jen Howell went down and testified, but expands this program in the state. The AB 366 creates the Regional Behavioral Health Policy Boards. So we were fortunate, there are 4 regions that cover the state. Washoe County is its own region. So I think that's a great thing. As the district health officer, I'm one of the people that are identified that will be serving on the policy board. So that'll be, I think, hopefully there'll be resources that follow. I think the concern is that if we're supposed to do the behavioral health, we don't have resources for it. AB 388, an appropriation for Women's Health Connection program. So that's breast and cervical cancer screening services, $1 million over the biennium. AB 397, $1 million appropriation across the biennium for family planning services. AB 428 provides for dispensing of opioid antagonists without prescription. So that's the Narcan product. AB 474 provides for reporting of drug overdose and suspected overdoses. So these currently aren't captured. This will now be a reporting of these like other communicable diseases so that we'll have that surveillance data. And it also provides for a review and evaluation of prescribing. So for instance, if we see that we have a number of overdoses occurring because of prescriptions that one doctor is writing, that would be a reason to look into that.
Or a dirty drug, too. You know, when the
Yes.
fentanyl and the stuff that we're
Exactly.
seeing back
Yes.
east.
Yes. SB 59 is for reporting on controlled substances through law enforcement to the prescription drug management program or monitoring program. So this is an expansion of reporting that physicians do when they're prescribing drugs. So now law enforcement, if they're encountering prescriptions in their law enforcement activities that are suspicious or on the street, can kind of get the back end information in on the system and enhance the quality of the analysis and what can be done with that system. SB 91 combines and expands the HIV/AIDS and cancer drug donation programs. So it both combines those, but it also expands the donation program beyond drugs just for those two things. So it's an enhancement of that program. SB 122 establishes a program to award grants for family planning services. The SB 124 improves gun control in regards to protective orders against domestic violence and conviction of battery, which constitutes domestic violence or stalking. So people that have those protective orders will have to surrender any firearms that they have or sell them. SB 165 is our height and weight measurement in schools that's going to be returning. SB 167 provides appropriation for school gardens for Title I schools. SB 233, another reproductive health care bill, supports reproductive health care, hormone replacement therapy, and preventive health care, as well as that 12-month dispensing of contraceptives. SB 325 provides for coverage of lawful immigrants under age 19 by the Children's Health Insurance Program and Medicaid. So previously, they could not receive coverage until they'd been in the country for 5 years, and this allows them to receive that care. SB 344 provides for marijuana labeling and packaging, so this is supposed to help to avoid kids getting into the edible products and thinking it's candy and that kind of stuff. SB 429 provides for urban agricultural zones and use of county or city land for community gardens. So these were all enacted bills that I think were very positive coming out of the session. We had some bills that weren't enacted that we were in support of. AB 175 and 106, the minimum wage bills, were vetoed by the governor. Our interest in those was for living wage for people in our community. AB 193, the fluoridation bill, you've heard before, didn't come out of committee. AB 348, evidence-based age-appropriate sex education, went all the way to the governor as Amber Joyner's bill. I wrote him a letter asking him to sign it, but he vetoed that bill. AB 374, Medicaid health care for all, Mike Sprinkle's bill also was vetoed by the governor. AB 408, coverage for preventive care, maternity and newborn care, pre-existing conditions, and insurance coverage of children up to age 24 on their parents' policy. Again, went through the legislature, but was vetoed. AB 450, prohibiting vaping under the Clean Indoor Air Act, and packaging and labeling requirements. I mentioned before, we're very disappointed that this is a bill that came out of an interim healthcare committee and yet was not even heard. SB 152, the classic vehicle exemption, to restrict that exemption for the exemption for emission controls, heard but no action. And SB 379, block grants for alcohol and drug abuse and behavioral health programs, did not come out of the assembly. I think it's notable that we had all of the marijuana bills in the session this year, and yet we had no funding for substance abuse coming out of this. SB 387, this is another gun control bill that would have been more expansive as far as gun control for protective orders that would have addressed people that are committing high-risk acts. So people that were viewed to be a danger to themselves or others would have prevented them from having firearms. And that one did not get through the assembly. Some other bills that I think are important to note, AB 203, I mentioned before, the cemetery authorities bill was approved. I'll actually talk about this a little bit more in my monthly update. And then SB 355, this bill creates a grief support trust account, and it does so by including $2 for that in the death certificate fee. So we're evaluating that, and I expect we'll probably be coming to you for an increase in the death certificate fee to cover that. And then SB 487, the marijuana excise tax and local government licensing fees is what it ended up being in the bill. I wanted to point out that Senator Ratty was a champion behind this and was working to try to provide some of that funding for substance abuse, but that did not survive in the end in the bill. But I believe it's a positive that it does provide for local government licensing fees, so there's some opportunity for some revenue to support local government activities. So that's my post-game show for
I love
the
it.
legislative session.
Anybody have any questions? I'll start down here. Chief Brown?
I just like to say, to our district health officer, it was a lot of work, and I saw you down there quite a bit, as well as your staff members, and we really appreciate that, and, everything that you did to ensure that things moved in a progressive manner. I want to talk a little bit about AB 85. That's because we have a lot of folks in the room that went down and testified on behalf of that, and it really showed here in Washoe County, working together. The fire agencies, RIMSA, Reno Fire, North Lake Tahoe Fire, Sparks, they all helped throughout the entire process to get the CPR AED programs into schools and get it passed. And Mr. Dow didn't say much about that, but I know Mr. Dow sits on the American Heart Association board. He's also an active member. They had the ball 2 nights ago, and he provided a great overview electronically, but was there present too. And he has been leading that along with his staff and the other agencies here in Washoe County, and they've done a great job. So we appreciate all the help for that. And again, for all the help looking at all the different bills that would affect us here in Washoe County. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else? Dr. Hess?
Yeah, at the Medical Society, we just put together a very similar sheet. And what's interesting is I would say we're somewhere close to 90% agreement on what we wanted to prove and what we didn't support.
Nice.
And I don't know whether our lobbyists got together, but if they didn't, we should, when next year, or in 2 years, we should try, maybe communicate a little more about it. And that's partly my fault, because I'm supposed to kind of be a liaison and bring some of that stuff back and forth. But I'm really was impressed looking through that sheet and now looking at this. It's how many we agreed on, the 2 organizations.
A couple of people that I should be acknowledging, and one is Laura Rogers, who's a quarterback for us.
She's the rock star
for
of the group.
all
Yep.
of this, and we were doing a little celebration when we completed the report. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And also, I wanted to acknowledge Michael Hackett and the Nevada Public Health Association, because we were able to participate in the advocacy calls with the Nevada Public Health Association. And Michael Hackett provides lobbying support for them, basically pro bono. They hardly pay him anything. And he was absolutely pro bono with all of the assistance that he provided to the health district during this session. And he did a lot of the coordination with the Medical Society and other organizations down in Carson City. So I wanted to recognize that.
That's great. Anyone else? Looks like we won a lot this session, more than we have in past years since I've been on this board, and that has a lot to do with you, as well as Senator Ratty, who was my vice chairwoman here on this board, who keenly understands the issues as they face not only women, but families and men, and all of us as equal partners going forward. So I'm proud of all the work that you did, Mr. District Health Officer, and we will be certain to note that when we do your performance evaluation as well.
And also, please also recognize the staff that supported the work and getting the letters put together.
Absolutely,
and
all of our staff that are all back at work. But I know you monitor, and it's a whole other full-time job on top of your full-time job during session, and you have to be ready to run at 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes to go testify, so we get it. Anyone else? Councilman Delgado?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and be remiss not to. Also, on the not enacted was AB 259, the decriminalization of marijuana. Thought that was one that was really looking forward to seeing that we know impacts families and communities in the sense of those that are still dealing with that stigma But now we see some people really taking advantage of the benefits now moving forward, but those that are still having to deal with employment and housing and so forth, so.
Absolutely.
Highlight that one.
I
Thank you.
believe that bill
Great
was,
point.
I believe that was vetoed by the governor.
Yep.
Correct, yes.
Great. Any other questions? This is not an action item.
I think I might have one.
Yes, I mean, it is an action item, so we'll have to accept it after we do questions. Councilman
How do we
Dare?
find out more information about the community garden? I've seen those when I was in other cities, and the fact that it passed or whatever, I think that's an awesome idea. So I'm very interested in hearing more about how that, and then for us do we help monitor those kind of gardens as a health department, and then what is allowed and that kind of thing, because I think that's a neat thing for the community.
Good. I'll bring you back additional information on that.
Good.
You know, we have supported community gardens through our food security and our chronic disease program and food policy council. But I have not dug into the legislation yet, but thank you for prompting me. I will do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you're a councilman from Sparks. We have a councilman from Reno. You have me that goes back to Washoe County Board. We do have lots of vacant land that could be used for our constituents all across this region, and it'd be great for you to be able to take that back to your councils and be the champion for that.
Yeah, and Councilman, I know I've worked on a few different urban farms here in town, and I know there's a few that are at schools. We've even had one at Neal Road in the park. The issues that we always end up dealing with is the volunteers that work on those and the staffing, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd like to have more information too in terms of what we do as a health board, and how we can help, spur them out and help people get them started.
Good.
Great. Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Novak, a second by Delgado. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. That takes us to item 10, non-action items, staff reports and program updates. Item 10A is air quality management, and we have our director, Ms. Charlene Albee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, Charlene Albee, I'm the Director of the Air Quality Management Division. I wanted to bring an update to you that actually just happened this morning. As my position on the National Association of Clean Air Agencies Board of Directors, we've been championing the fight to save the EPA budget. For our budget here, it's about 30% of our EPA grant is dedicated. I shouldn't say 30%. We're looking at a 30% cut in our EPA grant, which is purely dedicated to our staff, pays for our personnel costs. So as the board of directors, we've been engaging in letter writing and contacting and stuff, all of our representatives and senators, and especially people on the appropriations committees. So we sent out a letter from the association to all of the appropriation committees in March, didn't get a whole lot of response, kind of got thrown in the baskets, and so we decided to take a second effort at reaching out. We're fortunate here in Washoe County that Congressman Amodei is on the Appropriations Committee, so I sent him a letter directly and wanted to let you know that actually this morning I received a call from his office in Washington, D.C. to let me know that he actually did receive the letters. They made sure that all the subcommittee chairs got their copies, and Zinke was doing some testimony on the interior budgets, and Congressman Amodei actually brought up the fact that he was receiving letters and was very concerned about the interior and the EPA budgets. So it looks like we're starting to gain some traction on hopefully getting some relief for the proposed cuts. I know that we're not out of the woods, but hopefully it's starting to look like it's turning a positive direction. So I thought I would let the board know that we have reached Washoe County to the national stage.
Great.
And I'm available if you have any other questions.
My vice chairman.
This is kind of a question to give us some, prognosis. If we lose a lot of the weather service here, how is that going to impact what you're doing?
Well, I can tell you that the Weather Service is probably one of our most important partners that we have, not only for wildfire season, so that we see what our our forecasts are coming, but also in our ozone season, they give us the forecast for when we're expecting high pressure and potential ozone impacts to come. Anytime you lose a really important partner in a really good circuit of people working together, it's going to be a hitch in our get-along. So our monitoring stations will continue to run. We may have to find another way to accommodate getting information out because they do put our health alerts out on their websites. So we will continue on, but it will be a tragic loss if we lose the National Weather Service support.
Is it going to impact our budget in the future?
I think that we can say definitely it will impact our budget in the future. I think that when you have agencies working so closely together, there are tentacles between all of us, and when you start pulling pieces out, other ones have to compensate for it. And so I know that for our budget alone, we have to save our staff because we have very limited resources as it is. So one of the biggest things we look at potentially losing is a lot of our outreach ability. Well, that's the way we get our message out to our public. And so we're in a really critical position right now to ensure our public health and protection, but also to enable our economic development to continue on. And so we're right there.
Big concern.
We're very concerned. We're not laying back and letting it happen, though. We are trying to be vocal. We are trying to get our message out, and so far it seems to be working. The appropriations committees that have heard these testimonies from the directors have all said that they do not believe the budget's going to be approved the way it was presented. So that's encouraging. We just don't know what that means.
Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Hess.
I'm not really very good at this political game, but is there something we should, as a board, possibly do to try to influence this? Because I mean, I just started thinking about all the things in my daily life when I first heard about this, and you know, at least I decide, you know, is tomorrow going to be a good day to go skiing, or you know, whatever. I mean, it's amazing how it will affect us if this is lost.
Well, I'm very happy to pen a letter for all of you to sign, and we'll send that on. And I also would encourage Ms. Albee and the rest of the health department crew who are affected by this to reach out to our lobbyist, who is Jamie Rodriguez. And then we also have a Washington, D.C. lobbyist who should be made very well aware of this as well, so that this, and I encourage both council members to go back to your council and ask if they would make sure that they're reaching out to your DC lobbyists too, and write your own letters in terms of, because it's not even just air quality, right? It has to do with flooding, so emergency management. They help us a lot, whether or not we're going to move people. It goes on and on and on. So I think that we'll definitely get that letter done, but more than that, and then at your medical society, if you could help with that too as a doctor.
Yeah.
That would be great, and we'll make sure that those get to the proper people, and hopefully we'll get a phone call saying that they received it.
I was very
You're very
surprised.
fancy.
So I was very surprised. I was very pleased. So
Good
hopefully
job.
they're really starting to pay attention.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Ms.
It's nice to have somebody
Albee.
on a national level, too.
Yes, it is. It really
So,
is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10B, Mr. Steve Cutts, Community and Clinical Health Services. Do you have any updates, sir?
Good afternoon, Steve Cutts for the board. I just wanted to show you a KLO TV news interview that our WIC program did. WIC does not get a lot of local attention, so we were actually very excited about this. Aaron Dixon, our program manager, sent out a press release via Phil Ulibarri, and we got a lot of traction on it, and it has there has been quite an interest in the farmers market coupons. So.
Fresh fruits and vegetables more accessible to local families. This summer, the Washoe County Health District is offering $30 worth of coupons to families in the WIC program to use at local farmers markets. And the timing couldn't be better. Annabelle Bush stopped by the Washoe County Health District building to pick up something that's going to help feed her kids. 6 $5 coupons to use at the farmers markets.
It's all fresh and, daily fresh veggies and fruits out there, and, they look good compared to some stores, so it's pretty exciting.
This is the first full summer the Health District is offering the coupons to WIC participants, a chance to promote the importance of fresh produce to families who might not otherwise budget for places like these.
It would be a great new opportunity for those that have never been to a farmer's market, who don't know maybe what the great fruits and vegetables that northern Nevada farmers grow, and to try new things that maybe aren't offered in our local grocery store.
The Washoe County Health District serves about 5,000 people through the WIC program, which provides supplemental nutrition to women, children, and infants. To qualify, they must be at 185% of the poverty line. The thing is, a lot of families in northern Nevada do qualify and don't realize it.
It happens a lot. So we always have our eligibility information out there, and we encourage people to just give us a call and see if they qualify and see if they would be interested in our services.
This weekend, 2 farmers markets will open in Reno, the one at the Summit and the one on California Avenue. Annabelle plans to go and bring her kids, and it will be more than just a shopping trip.
It's fun for them because they get to go out and they get to learn about new fruits and vegetables that they don't offer at stores, so it is a good thing for them.
To see if you qualify or if someone you know does, head to colotv.com and click on this story. We've provided a link and that phone number for the WIC program. What a good program.
That's great, Mr. Cutts.
Yes,
and
we were-
please let Ms. Dixon know that I'm very proud of her performance. She looked great.
I certainly will, thank you. And I just wanted to comment that the mom that was willing to be interviewed, she really didn't want to be interviewed, but her little boy is like, Mom, I want to be on TV. So we were very appreciative that we had a WIC client that was willing to participate. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding our report this month.
Great job. I pushed it all out on social media too, and got a lot of likes.
Awesome, great, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Item 9C is Environmental Health Services. The acting director is our District Health Officer, Mr. Kevin Dick. Do you have anything to add, sir?
I don't have anything to add to the report, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? All right. Hearing none, we'll go to item 10D, Epidemiology and Public Health Preparedness. Dr. Todd?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Randall Todd for the record. I have 2 items to add to my submitted report. One, like Ms. Albee, we're also potentially facing some significant budget cuts from the new administration. We've been told to expect a 100% cut to our ASPR funds. This is hospital preparedness. We don't know if that's going to materialize in exactly that way, but that represents about $250,000 in our budget should that happen. Among the things that are funded through that is our we staff the Interhospital Coordinating Council, the IHCC. Fortunately, that existed long before there was ASPR, and we would make every attempt to try to retain some staffing for that. It was part of the EMS program before ASPR came along, and so we would attempt to keep that thing going because it has been very beneficial for our community. I believe it is the longest standing committee of its sort in the state. It's been around long before Las Vegas had one or that Carson City had one. So that's something that we're keeping an eye on, and like Ms. Albee, we will be attempting to communicate with appropriate members of the legislative team to try to forestall that if we can.
Okay, and let's include that in our letter from us as well.
Sure. The other thing that I would mention, this is just kind of interesting, in my communicable disease staff meeting just day before yesterday, I was informed that over the last 2 weeks, we've had 13 individuals with rabies or potential rabies exposure. So 12 of these were people who'd been exposed locally to bats, and In not every case were they able to bring the bat in for testing. So that meant if you've had a bat exposure and you don't know, then the better part of valor is to go ahead and undergo the rabies prophylaxis. This isn't as bad from a pain standpoint as it used to be. A lot of us tend to remember back in the olden days, they used to give you the shots in the stomach. They don't do that anymore. It's a shot. It's a series of shots.
Why people are getting rabies again.
It's a series of shots in the arm, and it's no more painful than a flu shot. I'm told. I have not undergone this, thank goodness. But the 13th case over the last couple of weeks was somebody who'd been out of the country and had had exposure to a monkey that potentially had rabies. Just to put this in some perspective for you, in the United States between 1997 and 2006, there were 19 naturally acquired cases of rabies. 17 of those were associated with bats. So by far and away, that is the way that most people, if they're going to get this, will get it. There were between 40 and 50,000 post-exposure prophylaxis treatments given in the United States. These cost in excess of $3,000. I'm told locally it's more like $5,000 to undergo the series of shots. There are about 120,000 animals that are tested each year in the United States, and about 6% of them turn out to actually have rabies, but that varies from around 1% in domestic animals to greater than 10% in wild animals. So it's just something that I did not remember in my time here, ever seen that many in such a short period of time, and so I thought you might find that interesting.
Any questions?
From one area?
I am going to be asking staff to look and see if the 12 individuals were from one part of town. I have not been informed that they were. The other thing that I'd like to know, and I did a little bit of research to see, but our data sheets show the number of rabid bats that have been identified in a year, but that doesn't tell you the number of bat exposures in a particular year. But this has been an unusual year from a weather standpoint. We've had a lot more rain than usual. I expect we're going to have a lot more bugs than usual. Bats eat bugs, and so with more food, maybe we have more bats. I don't know, but that's kind of the way we're thinking about it, and I'll see if we can come up with any data and be happy to update you if we find anything.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Todd.
You're welcome.
Mr. District Health Officer, I believe you are next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank Councilman Delgado for his invitation to present to the Reno City Council. I had the opportunity to do that on June 14th, where I discussed with them our water system plan reviews, gave them an update on air quality and the ozone rule, and also an update on our community health initiatives. During or following my presentation and with remarks made from council members, the City of Reno is willing to provide some support from their enterprise fund to initiatives that would help to streamline workflows and expedite permit processing, and that sort of stuff. And our staff are working with City of Reno staff, and we've got some ideas of things that we think might be effective. So I just wanted to also acknowledge that and express my appreciation for the City of Reno's interest in how they can support the health district and that permitting and workflow process between the two entities. Also, I wanted to follow up on the Cemetery Authorities Bill, AB 203, as it was requested at the last meeting. And this bill became effective immediately when the governor signed it on May 23rd. And under the revised provisions under the law, a cemetery authority may not order the disinterment of a burial plot owned by a person other than the cemetery authority, and the cemetery authority is required to obtain a determination from the governmental authority that the cemetery authority cannot restore the cemetery to a proper operating condition, and the cemetery authority cannot sell or lease the cemetery to or enter into a contract with another cemetery authority that will properly maintain the cemetery. That is before they're allowed to disinter the remains under the legal provisions for cemetery authorities. So the new law provides for that additional step of a determination by the governmental authority. The law doesn't make any changes to the provisions of NRS under which the health district health officer issues a permit for the disinterment or removal of human remains. And so the existing permit that they have expires on August 12th, 2017. Throughout, we've maintained that us providing them with a disinterment permit does not relieve them of any of their other legal obligations. And so we'll just continue that permit is issued, but they can't do disinterment without meeting these other provisions that exist under the law. And so I did coordinate with Leslie Admirand on this, so I have some review, but I open it for her if she's got any corrections for me or wants to add anything to that.
Dr. Novak has a question.
Are we a governmental authority?
I do not believe that we would be the governmental authority under
Thank you.
Under this law.
Who would be?
Yep.
Ms. Admirand?
It would be the county or the city.
But it's in the city, the one that, the
Right,
Hillside
right,
Cemetery.
right.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that's your problem, brother.
Congratulations.
Any other questions? Do you have anything more to add? We kind of cut you short, Mr. District Health Officer.
Just one other thing. I just wanted to highlight, well, actually, let me stretch it to two things. Public health accreditation. We are going to be getting our statement of intent completed prior to the end of the month. And so once that goes in, then within 6 months, we have to do our formal application. So we are moving along with the accreditation process. Tied to that, one of the things that we need for accreditation is our workforce development plan. And we've completed our workforce development survey to staff. And the last paragraph in page 2 provides you with the statistics of what we got from that survey as far as what staff views as trainings that they most needed, trainings that they felt that they wanted, and then the rundown of what's the combination between those of what people both wanted and needed. So it's some interesting statistics there, and I encourage you to take a look at that. We do have a Family Health Festival that's happening tomorrow over at the Evelyn Mount Community Center and Dick Taylor.
Tomorrow or Saturday?
You're right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tomorrow. Feels like tomorrow, Saturday. Saturday morning, so don't show up tomorrow. Saturday morning, 9 to noon at Evelyn Mount and Dick Taylor Park.
Great. Any other questions? One thing I would encourage our Sparks representative here is to please, if you would look into the Safe Drinking Water Program and issues with the water system plan and see if Sparks would like to provide a lift as well with our health district. While Reno and Sparks very minimally fund our health district, I mean, it's really a pittance. You can help us with your workforce and the type of power that you have in terms of FTEs to get that moving, if you have the will to do that, right?
I'll check into it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I just
Yes.
one other thing? I realized, boy, time has been flying by, that since the last meeting with Truckee Meadows Healthy Communities, we also had the opportunity to provide a presentation to the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency Governing Board on our housing initiative. We did a presentation with Enterprise Community Partners, which is a nationally renowned organization that works on affordable housing issues that we're working together with to try to get a regional housing roadmap put together that would align approaches across the jurisdictions and set some common goals for achievement and a plan to get there. And the governing board agreed that they wanted to partner with and support that initiative and see how that could be integrated into the regional plan, and also to try to then take this back to their jurisdictions as well and help with getting things aligned. So we're very pleased with how that meeting went.
Great. Thank you for taking such an active role in a holistic approach to public health rather than staying in our silos and not worrying about affordable housing. But we know affordable housing lends or doesn't lend to healthy living as well. So I think this is the first we've ever had a district health officer participate at that level. I think it's why I also, no offense to the doctors here, think that a district health officer should not be a physician. I think it should be a person who's a good administrator and sees the big picture. So that's just in response to the letter to the editor that was written.
I agree.
And we got him cheaper, too. That's the thing. We got him cheaper than we would an MD. And I always am worried about the bottom line, right?
Didn't have to bring that one up.
Well, this is from a fiscal conservative who wrote the letter, so I always consider the audience. All right, any questions or comments? Thank you, Councilman Delgado, for championing the water program and getting the commitment of your staff as well.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I could, of course, just wanted to thank Mr. Dick and also Mr. English for coming and being flexible enough to work with other bodies out in the communities and development community and others that are impacted by the housing and trying to move things along. So it was great for us to reach out and hopefully we're making progress, made a few changes, amendments, efficiencies, and continuing the progress. So thank you again for staff for being so flexible and being willing to do that.
Great, I appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay, that takes us to item 11, board comment. Mr. Young, we'll start with you. Do you have any topics for future agenda items or announcements? Are you going to open up your tab at the brewery for us after the meeting?
Well, I'm not sure. My mic doesn't seem to be working.
Wait, push it.
I think that's very dim.
Oh, okay, there we go. I just couldn't see it. I should put my glasses on possibly, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to open the tabs up. However, brewery tours are always, apropos and things like that for an educational purpose.
Okay, we appreciate that.
Committee meetings.
Doctor, that's our retreat.
Yes, it is too, I do think that beer unites though, so.
I do too.
He retreats there quite often.
Dr. Hess, do you have anything?
No, thank you. No,
Okay, Councilman?
No, thank you.
Nothing.
I would ask,
Councilman
just
Dare?
because I'm jealous that you went to Reno and you didn't come to Sparks, but do you have regularly time yearly where you tend to come already on the books?
I do not have an annual schedule, but I'd be happy to come
should.
over and talk with.
Well, I'd like to help make that happen, because part of it is the whole conversation and the better relationship they have with you, no matter what the ask is. It doesn't seem like we're out on an island doing something, so.
I'll
that'd be great.
coordinate with you and we'll
Thank
get
you.
something set up. Thank you.
Any other board comments? I have a couple. First of all, I want to let you know that the district health officer, myself, my chairman, Commissioner Lucy, and Commissioner Hartung were at the REMSA emergency responders, and as was Dr. Todd and Miss Conti. I'm going to miss somebody. Wave if you were there. And it was a wonderful event. It got really good press, if you see in your PR part of the REMSA report. And it means a lot to the emergency responders that they're recognized. And there was a family from Hawaii that was vacationing in Portola, I think, and look at that good memory. And the husband had a sudden heart attack, and they were relatively young to me, and they flew back to give this award to this woman and man who work for REMSA, these advanced paramedics, because without them and them turning up, she would have went home alone to Hawaii and never to have him come back. So I love that she told the staff that they always have a place to stay in Hawaii because of the. So it was just lovely, and almost as if it was orchestrated. Raven went up, and so we had to, we're trying to do interviews, and Raven's just making all this noise. It just was a lovely, lovely event. I encourage anybody to get a chance to go to that when they do it every year in May. And then finally, my chairman, Commissioner Bob Lucy, would like to let this board know that the commission has become aware of challenges with developers in the area. And I know, Mr. Dick, that you did put water system regulation front and center on your report and with the plan review process. So they want to know if we could get an update about our plan review process and the impacts it may have on the future growth within our region, and an overall coming together of ideals so that we can start expediting plans and new developments. And you can't talk about this right now anyways, but I think it would be important once, and I know it's still ongoing, once you get a final answer to come to our Board of Commission, and then probably to both the cities.
Yes.
And let them know what happened, and I can't go any further because it's not agendized, so, right? Okay. Any other board comment? Yeah, Councilman Delgado?
Madam Chair, I think this is related back to Mr. Dick's presentation in the city of Reno, where that process was discussed with the city, and if there are
Right,
any
I'm
further
sorry, I
changes,
was remiss, yeah.
Yeah.
You've
But-
already heard that show.
No, but yeah, I mean, again, I think there's a lot of progress, even from the city of Reno's position, but maybe from the counties, there's still some clarity that needs to take place. But
Okay.
just
Thanks,
wanted to
thanks for
highlight
that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Any other board comment? All right, we have our final public comment. And where is my public comment card? Miss Kathy Brandhorst?
My name is Kathy Brandhorst, and I'm also the United States President. I was trying to tell you about this 4.5-year-old. He is in perfect health, and he is U.S. born. And I don't know why you would have him, just mutilated all throughout the day and still pick him up and still put him back together. Prostitution is a crucial thing right now, especially for little kids. These little kids have been brought towards the grown-ups on death row, and these people on death row do need to swallow people. It's not people, actually, it's babies, not even born yet, through their stomachs. They are still in the women's stomachs, excuse me. And also it is called rape, because these kids are screaming and screaming and screaming that they are being raped by grown-ups. And these grown-ups are the ones on death row, and they have no right, to release the ones on death row. They're supposed to be in prison, they're supposed to be in jail, but every time I turn around, they are still walking the streets and picking up the same children because they were charged. And being raped in prostitution, they call it, because they wanted to stay alive a little bit longer, even though they could not afford to pay for their lawsuits. Their lawsuits are growing, but they aren't going to try to cover up that they are good people, and they're really doing the same thing over again and again in prostitution and rape. Also, murder has been coming up quite frequently too, because they need to cover up what they did to these small children, like Barry, the little baby that they had. And it will be charged murder. And they're not going to get away with murder, but they have, because they're still not in prison, they're still not in jail, and they're still walking the streets, getting away with the same little girls, the same little boys. The electric chainsaw has been coming up quite frequently too with.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brandhorst. Any other public comment, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.